What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Nash, and today I'm going to be going over staff accountant interview questions. Now, in the past, I've done a video on financial analyst interview questions, and if you've worked in the industry, you know that these positions are, go hand in hand. You can easily transition from being a staff accountant to being a financial analyst, and from being a financial analyst to being a staff accountant. So sometimes, if your end goal is to be a financial analyst, you might have to start as a staff accountant. But I wanted to go over a couple of interview questions that are really important for you to know exactly what's being asked and how to answer that question. So these are not going to be in any type of order. These are just questions that are specific to staff accountants or someone who's interviewing to be a staff accountant. Now, without wasting any time, the first question is going to be, why did you choose a career in accounting? So this is going to allow the person that's interviewing you to kind of like gauge what your career goals are, right? Kind of like in a nutshell, not going into detail. But so a lot of people go into accounting for several reasons, right? There's people that love accounting and their goal is to get a CPA, right? Which is the accounting license that you want to get, a certified public accountant. And in order to get that license, you need to get some work experience. So some people go to start off as a staff accountant and then end up studying for their CPA and then take that and then they get certified, right? Or some people graduated with the finance or accounting degree and they want to see if they like accounting by working this entry-level accounting position, and that's going to allow them to make future decisions. Or some people want to be financial analysts, but the position that's open is staff accountant, and that they hope to just get into the company. And whenever there's a financial analyst position open, they can apply for it, right? Since they're already within the company. So those are different reasons. When they ask you these questions, they're trying to gauge what your career goals are. All right, so my go-to answer when it comes to this question is going to be related to knowledge. So you can talk about how you want to apply everything you learned in school into the real world, right? And you can also talk about how you plan on learning new skills on this position, as well as improving the skills that you already have and, getting to work with people that actually have work experience and learning from them. So that's kind of like in the middle, right? Where you're not giving too much information about your future plans. Maybe you're not even sure. And you want to say something. You want to go in the middle. You want to use what you learned in school and apply to this job, as well as learn new skills. And you also want to improve the skills that you learned in school, right? By working with professionals that have done it for years or however long. So that's kind of like a good answer to go with that. That's kind of like in the middle. Of course, you can tweak this to however you want, but if you want to be safe, I would go with this answer. The next question is going to be, what accounting software have you used? So this one is a tricky question, because some people will think that if they've never used an accounting software, they're not going to get the job. But for the most part, employers do understand that if you're coming from college did not teach you how to use QuickBooks. They don't teach you how to use accounting software. They teach you accounting. They don't teach you how to actually practice it using software that's actually used out there. So employers do understand this. So you don't have to feel the need to lie that you know how to use something that you don't. But sometimes if you know how to use, let's say you've used QuickBooks, right? QuickBooks Online is pretty easy to learn. I always recommend learning that. I have a video on that, or maybe getting a certification in that. And that's something you can put on your resume. Now, I'm going to assume that, you probably don't have good experience with an accounting software. Here's how you can answer this question. You can let them know that you've never used an accounting software, but you're willing to learn, and you're a pretty fast learner, right? So the first part is really important. You're willing to learn, right? Because this is going to be on the job training. So if you don't know how to use it, someone's going to have to train you. So you have to be willing to learn, right? If you're not willing to learn, then there's no need to train you, because you're not going to retain any information. Now, the second part is going to be you learn really fast. Now, I get it. Not everybody learns really fast when it comes to different softwares, but you need to say that, because sometimes employers don't want to spend a year training you, right? Sometimes they have training that only lasts a week, 2 weeks, a month, right? And after that, you should be pretty proficient. And I understand that some people are not fast enough. So here's what you do. This is something I actually did. So here's what I did. In addition to the on-the-job training that I would get on the software that we're learning, so I'd go home and watch tutorials on YouTube on how to use that software. I would Google, different ways of doing things in that software. You can look up how to generate an expense report or anything that's specific to that software. So now, instead of just relying on the job training, you're taking maybe 1 or 2 hours of your time when you get home to actually practice. So when you say you learn really fast, and if you're not a fast learner, that means you just have to go home and practice some more, right? And that's going to allow you to learn really fast, because you have more practice. Instead of just listening to the person that's training you at the job, you can look at multiple videos on YouTube that'll show you different ways of doing things. But yeah, so that's always my go-to answer when it comes to that. The next one is going to be, do you plan on getting a CPA? So this is a tricky question as well. I feel like a lot of people lean towards, I want to get a CPA because they think that's what the other person wants to hear. But essentially what they're trying to do is kind of like, when it comes to getting a CPA, you need time to study. And sometimes people would take a leave of absence, right? Because, maybe they're not good at balancing a full-time job as well as studying. And sometimes employers offer to pay for your educational expenses when it comes to studying for the CPA and the actual exams. So these are things that they're trying to gauge when they ask you this question. For the most part, I can imagine that a lot of people aren't 100% sure. So it's okay to tell them that, I'm just here to gain, work experience. And when it comes to the CPA, this is something that I haven't really thought about yet. Not everyone has to get a CPA. Now, if you know that you're going to get a CPA, then you can tell them that, yes, you plan on getting a CPA after you get some work experience from here. All right, so the main thing to take away from this question is that you do not have to feel the need to tell the other person that you're going to get a CPA if it's not in your plans, or if you're not sure. It's okay to just let them know, I'm not sure, I'm just here to, get industry experience. And then if that's something that I'll be interested in later, I'll probably do it. Or, it's not something I'm interested in. For the most part, it's not going to lower your chances of getting hired. The next one is going to be, what accounting reports are you familiar with? Or what accounting reports have you generated in the past? Now, this question is essentially to measure how familiar you are with accounting reports, right? Because they're asking you to list something. So before you even do anything, I recommend, before you go to the interview, look up some financial reports and kind of like watch some videos on how they work to kind of like get the idea, right? So we're talking about statement of cash flows. We're talking about budget reports. We're talking about expense reports, revenue reports, and that these are going to be statements that you're going to be using on a daily basis. So it's important to kind of like have maybe 5 ready, or 6, or even more. You don't want to go overboard, like, listing like 10 different statements. Just list 3 to 5, statement of cash flow, the different budget reports and things like that. You can even look up financial reports specific to your job, right? If you read the job description, they should be on there. Be familiar with cash flow, the balance sheet, things like that. So these are things that you want to make sure you know before you go into the interview. So just memorize 3, 4, and also kind of like understand what they do, right? And how they're used, right? Just in case you get a follow-up question like, so how have you used the statement, or what is it used for? So you want to make sure that you have an understanding of that statement, of those statements that you have memorized. The next one is going to be, how do you handle tight deadlines? So this is really important because when it comes to accounting, it's deadline driven, right? Think about the monthly reports, even the weekly reports or the daily reports, right? Or there's a report that you have to send twice a day. These are reports that I use to make business decisions, right? And they have to be accurate. So when they ask you this question, they're just trying to make sure that you're someone who is aware that deadlines are important in accounting. So my go-to answer when it comes to this is essentially time management. Talk about time management, how you manage your time. How do you make sure that you don't miss the bus, right? If you're taking a bus, how do you make sure you don't do that? You can talk about how you use your calendar, but you want to be more specific. So it's, it's actually tangible, not just saying things that are related to time management. You can say you use Google Calendar if you use that, right? And you always have it remind you a day before something is due, a couple hours before something is due, 30 minutes before something is due. You can talk about how you use reminder apps. You can talk about how do you use your alarm to kind of like, be a backup to the calendar just in case something happens. You can talk about how you plan things ahead when it comes to projects, and talk about how you, kind of like assign things to different days. If it's due at the end of the week, you break it down. Today I'll work on this. Tomorrow I'll work on this. The next day I'll work on this. And then I'll have it submitted the day before. You can talk about how you like to work ahead of schedule, just in case something happens. Then you have more time to fix that and be able to deliver whatever you're working on time, right, to meet that schedule. So this is more about talking about your time management skills, but you want to be specific. Like, for example, not just saying you like to use calendars. You can say, I use Google Calendar, I use whatever calendar you use. You can even talk about the apps that you use to help you. If you have a reminder app, I actually use this app. I started using this app last year, and I like to create a to-do list as well, right? You can talk about that. So that's really important, talking about time management, and you have to go into detail. So that is pretty much it when it comes to staff accountant interview questions. I know this was only 5 or 6, 5 questions. But if you guys want to see a part 2, there's obviously more questions to this. I didn't want to make this too long. But let me know in the comment section below if you want to see a part 2, or if you want to see, any other position that's in business that I'm familiar with, obviously, when it comes to interview questions. Let me know in the comment section below. And if you know different questions that I did not cover in this video that might help someone else, make sure to leave those in the comment section below. But that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. And I'll see you on the next one. Peace.